Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston with our Blooming Catholic Life, and I was just remembering the first song I learned on the traditional mountain dulcimer. Here's a book that I recently picked up. You can see I paid $7. I think it was originally published. It was only $2.50 at the Dulcimer shop. The Dulcimer shop still exists. So let's look at this book. It is called 4 and 20 Songs for the Mountain Dulcimer, written by Lynn McSpadden with music transcribed by Dorothy French. By the same authors, you have Brethren We Have Met, and that was 14 traditional hymns and 16 carols arranged for the mountain dulcimer with chords for the guitar. And I apologize, they were originally $2.95 when they were first published. It is traditional songs from the Ozarks for the mountain dulcimer player with instructions for playing in both traditional and progressive styles. Chord charts for the dulcimer and chords indicated for use with guitar are included. So, what? Here is a lovely picture, and she has two different styles, both the hourglass and the teardrop style dulcimer. There's also the Galax style, which is more of a rectangle shape. The book wants you to know it is dedicated to the members of the Rackensack Folklore Society of Stone County, Arkansas, whose old-time music of the Ozarks is their rich heritage and whose pictures grace these pages. Their acknowledgments to Dorothy French, who spent a lot of musical knowledge helping with the books. Took 2 years to make this book. Thanks to Sherry Hershend, Phyllis Whitfield, and Jack Hurley, who were dulcimer players who read the manuscript and made suggestions. Thanks to Larry McSpadden, whose skill in craftsmanship kept the shop alive while his brother worked on this project, and to Ginny Sue, his wife, who typed away the pages of the manuscript. The photographs were all by these guys. F. Jack Hurley, Ozark folklorist. Title page photograph by Gary Gillum, Sherry Hershend, Silver Dollar City, Missouri. The first printing was in May in 1970, but it quickly went back into reprints. 2 more reprints, at least we know of, in 1971. It was copyrighted in 1970 by the Dulcimer Shop in Mountain View, Arkansas. The Dulcimer Shop still exists. Let's look at the table of contents. You can see there's a little bit of history of the instrument, and then they jump straight into tuning, and then a section on traditional playing styles, the progressive styles. There will be an appendix that we jump to at the end, but in between there are a number of songs. Now it says they're songs, but there actually seem to be lessons. You can see there's a variety of modes. That's what the words are in parentheses. Now modern traditional music, I don't even know how to call it. They use generally 2 modes, and they just call them major and minor. But there's more than one major mode and more than one minor mode. So here we have Ionian, Aeolian, Mixolydian, Phrygian, Aeolian, Dorian. Dorian's the other one. So there's several modes here. Not all of them, but there are several modes included in this book. All good dulcimer books start out, whatever shape your dulcimer is, it's going to have the same parts. So we have a nice little diagram. And you can see it's going to line up pretty much. This is my teardrop dulcimer from the Smoky Mountains. And you can see the one main difference here is instead of having inlays telling me where the frets are, I have removable stickers. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same instrument. There's one variation as well is how you do your strings, whether they are ball ends like these, or there's actually a nail on the end and you put a loop end over it. And then they go inside the instrument, out this hole, over this board, and they run all the way up to these modern tuning pegs. So this is a modern-ish dulcimer. You can see it's got a bit of a hand craftsman shaping to it, but it's got some modern features as well. Okay, let's dive in. We know that this instrument has not quite been tamed, although you may see people play occasionally in a symphony or something. You really have to adjust the symphony to the dulcimer. They're coming out with chromatic ones, and some people really love that, and good for them. That's not my style. If I wanted to play a chromatic instrument, there's plenty of chromatic instruments already. I don't need to change the dulcimer for that. I say that, but we all know I have added some frets to my other dulcimer. This one has the addition of the 6.5 fret, which is very common in this 1970s playing to have the 6.5 fret. But actually to play Gregorian chant, I have the 1.5 fret, which will get you an accompanying 8.5 fret, right? 7 notes in the scale. So if you have one of the 6.5, let's see. So is there another one here? Yeah, there's not an additional one for the 6.5, but for 1.5 we also have the 8.5. Jumping into the next one, the page on the history lets you know that as much as people have tried to figure out the history of the dulcimer, it's a little bit difficult. There are some similar instruments in Europe. Did the dulcimer come straight from there? It's not exactly like one of the instruments. It doesn't seem really like a progression of them. It could have been that people came over and had a memory of it and used what tools and materials they had at hand, but it seems to have been created in some unique shapes. Like I said earlier, I think I said in this video, the Galax shape is more of a rectangle. This one is called the teardrop shape. And there's also the hourglass shape. So different shapes evolved in different areas. Some of them are painted black. That was a particular maker. I believe he had black paint left over from painting their wood-burning stove, and so he put that on. So different makers ended up creating little variations in their style. It's never really been standardized. It's never really been mass-produced, although Sears had some that they sold that I believe were made in Korea at some point in the 70s. I have one of those as well. It's just not taken off in quite the same way. It's a little bit different. It's really a shame. It's a wonderfully easy instrument to learn and to make your own, and that's it. Standardize it, meh. And I think that's one of the reasons it kind of gotten forgotten was also mass production was its enemy. Once mass-produced and cheap guitars and banjos and things started coming out, people went with those. And then most of the music was made for those instruments. And so if you had not learned the music growing up, you were probably going to go for those music books, right? Tuning. How to tune. And you can see this is an older style still. Wooden pegs, right? Most people will use the mechanical tunings, but you can see each of the strings is wound around a peg that is connected to it, and we turn these to make it higher and lower. I use a tuner like this. It's a little digital one. I clip it onto that head scroll. A lot of people use their phone, but in the original times, people would have known. Most dulcimers, it is one of those instruments that's made to be played a certain note, and if you've ever played the bass string when it's in tune, to feel the vibration of it, you know when it's in tune. And then you tune the other strings off of that. You learn to know what that interval sounds like for the tuning that you would like. And again, they may not have been perfect, but it's what sounded good on your instrument. And that's what's important when you're playing by yourself. They give you ways to tune. It says you may want to prefer to tune it to itself. Like I say, bring the pitch of the bass where it sounds best. And experience will teach you what that is. And then you go press down the bass string just to the left of the 4th fret and pluck the string. The note you hear is the one to which the remaining strings are tuned. This will give you Ionian, which is one of the major modes. The second way is to use another musical instrument or pitch pipe to find the proper pitch. And then you play that. You would tune the bass string to C, 1 octave below middle C. Next, tune the remaining strings to G below middle C. That method will also give you that same Ionian major tuning. And that's good, but like we said, there's other ways to tune now, as well as other tunings, other modal tunings, which will be in the back of the book. But here they're giving you what it would look like on a staff if you wrote out what the Ionian major tuning was. Next in the book, they're going to go into traditional playing style. There's quite a bit here. I'm trying to hide it. I don't want to copyright. This book is pretty cheap. You can afford to grab it yourself. There are some pictures. There's a lot of typed out instructions. And then they will introduce you to tablature. So the type of thing that it shows you is using a noter and a pick. This is in the traditional style. And it shows you that you can make them out of modern materials as well. This one is made out of a dowel rod. This one is made out of a feather. It's not quite the traditional way. I don't have all the way down to the little point. I wanted something a little bit firmer. I don't really strum quite the way they do. I don't do the quill whip. So I wanted something a little bit more firm. Then it goes into the tablature system, which is using a modern musical notation with extra 4 lines behind it. So I'm going to show you that real quick. So this one's going to be your bass string, your middle string, and the doubled up one, that's your melody string. As you saw on my dulcimer, many dulcimers have 4 strings, but you can take off the melody strings if you want. Can you see that there's 2 here? They're tuned the same. Okay, so that is the basics of tablature. There's also the arrows are telling you the direction of the strumming. That's what we use our pick for. Let's see. Then it tells you about the basic strum. When the lesson on the basic strum, I'll show you this first lesson. So there's a little bit of an introduction. Then there's some step-by-step what they would like you to do. And then it's going to tell you a little bit of a history, I think, here. Yes, Boil Them Cabbage Down is an old fiddle tune containing only 4 different notes in the melody. Using the basic strum, try playing it. Play only as fast as you can keep the rhythm. The basic 4-part strum is repeated 4 times in each measure. After playing a few rounds of this, look at some familiar tunes in the song section and play them with the basic strum. The dulcimer should be tuned to Ionian mode, producing a major diatonic scale. And it tells you here in the music, it is Ionian mode, the name of the song, and that it's traditional. Here is the modern notation, the words of the song, the strum pattern. And then again, this is a tablature, so this is bass string, middle string, and these are telling you to play all of it on the melody string. Which just means if you're playing in traditional style, again, you would have read these directions. You're holding the noter just on those melody strings. When you see people playing all 4 strings, they tend to use fingers and holding them different places. Okay. Let's see here. There's some practice lessons on the next page. Again, they have it written out the same way. A little bit of an introduction, a boxed in set of steps to do, and then for practice, and then it has the music written out. Here is showing you how you'll be able to play some chords and talking about thumb strumming and tapping. Tapping is an interesting thing. It is covered in here. Some general suggestions as well. So if things aren't working right or if you haven't read it, it's telling you what else to do. Progressive playing styles. You can see it has you using more of a modern pick in your fingers. There's no noter in this. What is different then? It is about double thumbing and variations. And the tablature looks a little bit different on the strumming lines, as well as there's numerical notations above all 4 strings, right? We're doing things a lot different. This up here, I believe, are your guitar chords have been added as well. Same thing, Ionian, the name of the song, and traditional. Those are always important to look for. It then talks about 3-finger picking. Yes. Then we have a section clearly marked for songs for the mountain dulcimer. It gives you RLE, and I'll just show you, that's one of the most songs that everybody knows, so I can kind of show you. It gives you the first verse is up here with the music. Now you can see this is meant to be played noter style. It doesn't say it. It doesn't say traditional. I don't know. It doesn't say, but look. It's only giving you the notes. When it only gives you numbers, that is going to be meant to played just on the melody strings, whether you play it noter style or not. The strum patterns are not here anymore, right? And it's just giving you those. But you can see they've added in as well some guitar chords. And all the subsequent verses are below. And the next one is the Cherry Tree Carol. And you can hear this. Jean Ritchie has some recordings where she gives you the Cherry Tree Carol. When Joseph was an old man was he. He courted Virgin Mary, was the Queen of Galilee. He courted Virgin Mary as was the Queen of Galilee. And so it goes on. If you've never heard it, it's really pretty. I can't sing it, but she really could. Here's one that's just a little different. See, this one does tell you that it was written by a person. It does not say traditional anymore. I find the adding of the guitar chords right in with the notes a little odd, but you know I rewrite everything by number system anyway in the end. Balm in Gilead does have something interesting. It has the tune first, and then there's a counter melody down here, so somebody else could be playing this. Anything else? Mixolydian is first introduced on Turnip Greens on page 22. Now, they didn't super introduce those yet, so let's go ahead and look, but that's why you're looking to see what kind of mode is the first thing listed for the song. So we're going to jump back to the back of the book. First, it's going to tell you care of the dulcimer. It talks about weather and wood, pegs, frets, strings, the nut and bridge, and the finish. Next, it's going to give you a little bit of a heads up on how to tune with guitar, tuning with banjo, and it gives you some recommendations on some good books. Then there are some recordings. It does tell you both divides that up as in traditional recordings as well as progressive players. They no longer really make those distinctions when they say it. They don't call it progressive. It can be difficult to find the music. I wish they still described them those ways, but they don't. You can pretty much hear the difference very quickly. Modal tunings is not mentioned until back on page 42. It says, because the unusual fret arrangement on the dulcimer, it can be played only in the mode to which it is tuned. Briefly, a mode is an octave scale, but the different modes have sharps and flats at various intervals. The songs in this book are labeled according to the mode required. To select the right mode for other songs, simply determine the scale needed. For example, if you need a scale with a flattened third and a flattened seventh step, the Dorian mode would meet your needs. The Ionian, Aeolian, and Mixolydian modes are the three most frequently used, but you will want to try tuning to all the modes just to see how they sound. Some tunes can be played in more than one mode. You can, of course, invent some of your own special tunings. The first four modes given below begin with Ionian tuning, and it is not usually necessary to change the pitch of the middle and bass strings. On the last two modes, be careful not to put too much tension on the melody string. Fret number 6.5 is the most useful in Aeolian mode, and it should be skipped in the other modes. And it will tell you what key it's in. So a lot of the songs in this book are done in the key of C major. So if it's in Ionian, it's usually in C. But here's the thing, even if I have mine tuned to D, the numbers will still work. So it doesn't matter what your basic tuning is. Yeah, in this one it has the Ionian mode, it wants it the bass in C. Let's see here. It says you may also want to rename some of the modes. So, for instance, most people may call Mixolydian mode Old Joe Clark. Old Joe Clark is a very famous dancing song with many, many verses that are made up, usually by the singers. The band will make them up as they go along. So there's millions probably of Old Joe Clark verses, and so you can remember that Mixolydian is the Old Joe Clark sound. There's then a whole page of hand-drawn chord charts to make that easy peasy for you. And then there's a bibliography at the end. The bibliography is broken into three groups. The history has 4 books. Instructions and songs have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then songbooks with music suitable for the dulcimer are, this is really interesting. These seem mostly to be traditional songs. American Favorite Ballads, The American Song Bag, English folk songs from the Southern Mountains, Ozark folk songs, and songs for picking and singing. And that's it. That's it. It's a great little book. It's pretty cheap to pick up. Again, the Dulcimer Shop still sells this. And sometimes you can find it at yard sales and antique bookstores, as well as music stores that have old hand-me-down books. I think this is a hand-me-down version, I'll be honest, just from the quality of the paper, the smell of the book. Can't be sure, but it feels like it's one of the original copies. Friends, God bless you. I hope this video has enriched your life in some way. If it has, please give it a like, share, and subscribe to our channel. On Mondays, we tend to have book reviews across a wide variety of genres. Wednesdays, we tend to have things of music, nature, ecology. I'm never entirely sure it's going to go on here. Crochet, knit. It's a full lifestyle channel. Thursdays, we have things now peculiar to secular Franciscans, or Franciscans, I suppose. And then on Friday, we have some practical theology. And sometimes we'll have some Lectio Divina or different Bible studies that air on evenings time slot. Okay, friends, God bless. Bye.